Hey everyone, welcome to the Wednesday live
up?
stream.
Oh my gosh.
You may have noticed that Jay is missing.
That's right.
Jay had too much work to do.
He had to.
Yeah, just had too much
Busy.
work to do. Now seriously, we have like so many live events coming up. We have Wisconsin.
I
SciCon,
got cheese.
LA, Australia, New Zealand. We're going to Dragon Con this year.
Oh boy, Dragon
Going
Con.
to Disney World.
I'm so excited.
We just had a meeting with our favorite nerd who's going to be at Dragon Con with us
Who
to
shall remain
plan
nameless.
some panels.
Christian, Yubicki.
And
Bob go.
and there may be other stuff too, but we're oh yeah, I guess we shouldn't say anything else until
No,
it's
shush.
at the
Yeah.
actually happening stage. But there's always stuff in the work and in the works.
All right. Well,
All right, so what day is it?
What
Orient
day
me.
is it? Everybody, they know what day it is.
They know what day it is.
It is.
It's my anniversary.
Oh, happy anniversary.
Thank you.
Happy
What, married
anniversary.
on tax day?
Yeah, we did. We
Should've-
did.
I should have changed this. I put taxes, death, more taxes.
More tax.
And also, happy anniversary to Bob and Liz. Hooray.
Steve and Josh's anniversary was just
3 days ago.
3 days
3
ago.
days
So
ago.
happy
Hooray.
anniversary to them as well.
So yeah, it is Wednesday, April 15th, 2026. And in the U.S., we have to do our own taxes. They don't do it for us, apparently. Like some other countries, I think they just take the money, right? Isn't that what is the Nordic people in Discord always yell at us? It's like, why do you guys always fill out your own taxes? They just take it from us.
Yeah, right?
They just do the calculations themselves.
I also remember hearing many years ago that in Italy, they assume you're cheating.
Yeah.
It's like that's the baseline assumption. You
In
got to
relationships or taxes?
taxes,
Oh, okay.
and then you got to prove that you didn't cheat on
That
your
you didn't.
taxes.
Well, it's worse than
So-
that. They just charge you 3 times whatever you claim.
They're like, we know you're lying. Just come on.
Yeah, all right. We're just gonna triple it, and we're gonna assume that's pretty.
Yeah,
that's
close
actually
enough.
not. I mean, it's
Not the
a
worst
cultural thing, but there's an analog in medicine. when we ask people how much alcohol do you drink,
Oh yeah.
rule of thumb is whatever they tell you, double it, and you're probably not that's the truth, but that's probably a lot closer
Probably, yeah.
first approximation than whatever they tell you.
What if they say 0?
Well, then you could double it, and you're still probably good.
Okay. Right.
Double it. Okay, let me know, Chad, if you see that no signal thing happen again, because I think I kicked the cable. Whoops. But anyway, all right.
Yeah, this
well,
is Evan's last day of hell,
Of hell
for
week.
this year.
Is that like kicking the bucket, kicking the cable?
Yes. Is it? It's on my kicking the cable list. All right. What
All right,
else?
so
we have
Ian,
to
what's
talk
going on in the
about?
world?
Yeah, nothing. Everything's fine. We're all gonna make it, and the flights are gonna not be canceled.
all
Oh,
good.
yeah, everything's good. Everything's
Our
fine.
flights are not going to be canceled
They're
at the
fine.
last minute.
Definitely not.
Jay has become quite nervous recently that
I know. I shouldn't have sent him. I sent him the article, so I might have started this.
Ian!
I'm sorry.
because
Don't poke the bear.
it's true though.
No, I did.
If we have a delay on just one of our flights, like
It's
especially
like
the
a
one,
whole house of cards comes collapsing
everything
down.
collapses and it could be horrible. So it's like it's
Yeah.
kind of scary.
have
It is a delicate dance. We have to arrive just in time at LA, do all the events there. Then we have to go to Sydney, Australia. Then we have a whole week of events there. It's crazy.
Yeah, it could be worst case scenario is scary.
The worst
so-
case scenario is bad.
Well, yeah.
But
that
hey,
point,
I
it
like
won't
living
matter.
life on the edge.
Yeah.
Hey, pay for the whole seat, but you only need whatever. Okay. All right. So what are we doing today? We have some weird tickety talks that we've seen. Do you guys want to start with the NASA one since we
Sure.
did last week? I think we did all NASA stuff.
Why won't
for
these
the most
cranks
part.
leave NASA
Oh
alone?
my gosh! Or the astronauts too. It's nuttiness.
This
Anyway,
one's particularly bad.
it's particularly absurd, and that one is not showing anything. Hold on, stand by. You will see it any moment now. Why does he look so? There we go. Boom. Okay, and they're back. All right, so this is particularly annoying. Let's see what this dingus has to say.
People are doing even more digging, and apparently this guy, Victor, people know him from the Artemis mission, but I guess people are also starting to point out that they know him from, oh no, not Fallout, the TV show, season 1, episode 1. Oh hell. Oh hell, so people are doing even more.
All right.
Wow.
So
What an
thoughts
idiot.
on that one?
Wow, man.
Out the gate.
Well, so yeah, I sent you a couple pictures.
Whoops, I have double images of you guys, but don't worry about that. Yeah, okay, let me pull
So
up that
first of all, the
picture.
idea is if you read the comments, it's all to the effect of, oh, this guy's right out of Central Casting, right? So they're that the astronauts are all actors,
Right.
meaning that they
Right.
didn't actually, they're not actually astronauts and actually go up in Artemis 2.
You're talking about another TikTok, though, right?
No, I'm talking about this one.
No, he didn't mention Central Casting.
No,
It's in the comments.
In the comments.
You're
the
right that there's
comments,
another
gotcha.
one that's in it too.
But this one has the other layer of being kind of racist because clearly it's not the same guy. So that's a picture of Victor Glover, the Artemis 2 astronaut.
Yes, right. And then
and-
click over to this
And
guy.
this is the guy who is the actor
I think Jamal Thomas
from
is it?
from Fallout. He's an actor. He's been on several things. He's got an IMDb page.
Right.
It's not the same guy.
But they're bald.
I know, but it's like two bald black guys. It's the same guy. I mean, it's like ridiculous.
Wow, man.
It's not even close, really, other than just, bald black guy.
Yeah,
About the
literally.
same age,
Yeah.
right? You have two 30-something bald black guys. Clearly, it's the same guy.
Yeah, that's pretty
Come
pathetic.
on. That is pathetic.
Yeah.
I mean, did he do
it's
no
absurd.
even basic research? Of
course
well,
not.
that's a theme of all these TikToks.
Yeah, you
People
can
are
say that
not-
about all the
It's so
TikToks.
superficial. They don't do any even a mid-level deep dive.
But
And
again,
pathetic.
all of these conspiracy TikToks the vast majority of them are anomaly hunting, right?
Totally.
You find something that's an apparent anomaly. In this case, it's, look, this astronaut looks like this actor, and then you just sort of throw that out there as an implication.
Right.
And obviously the people who are your target audience, like, yeah, this is clearly he's just from Central Casting. This is just an actor. The whole thing is fake. Don't trust anything the government says. NASA lies, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And
The
Glover's
Earth is flat.
49. This is good for 49, man. Holy shit. That might have been an old picture. No, it wasn't, though. He was in his uniform.
Yeah.
But in any case,
Get Jamal.
but they never follow through, right? They never. So what are you saying? Tell me the conspiracy. NASA faked the Artemis, for some reason, which is stupid. There's no reason to do it. How did they pull the whole thing off? Then the astronauts are actors. So they used actors who are in current series
Yes.
on TV.
Nobody will figure that out.
Nobody will
that's-
look it up. That's ridiculous. I mean, the thing is, if they were going to do that, they would have used people who were not already actors or not. You can't find online. They don't have a fucking IMDb page. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous.
It really is. It's not even superficially compelling in the slightest degree. It's
just-
really
it's
pathetic
so
and
stupid.
yeah.
and also racist. I mean, the guy. It's,
the
like-
extra
it's-
layer of
it's
a little bit
fail
of racism thrown in there as
on,
well.
on a lot of levels there.
But they do that also. I mean, there's a whole genre of stupid TikToks and other, social media, outlets, most of which are conspiracy theories that are essentially based on the fact that two people look alike.
Yeah.
And then somebody says that's the same person, right? There's a whole conspiracy about how, what's his name? Whose name I'm forgetting? Michael J. Fox and this other actor are the same person. Because these two actors kind of look similar.
Jim Carrey's been in the news with that recently too.
It'd be kind of weird if nobody looked alike. Be like, how would
It
that
would be
work?
kind of weird.
Be
People
like,
forget how big the world is.
Yeah,
that there's
I mean-
over 8 billion people on this
Billion.
planet. There's over 330 million or so people in the U.S. alone.
Right.
They just have no concept of how many people that is. And anyway, just the idea of you have a huge data set, finding coincidences is probable. It's highly probable. It would be unusual if there weren't any such coincidences.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. What did somebody say in TikTok? I saw. It was funny. Where is it? Oh, it's ironic that the term space cadet is a derogatory term. Space cadets making conspiracy videos. Yeah. Well, I guess it's just because they're out there, right? Is that the
Space, I mean, the etymology of space cadet. I mean, it's just the idea that
their brains are out?
your
off the planet or
your
something,
your
like-
thinking is in outer space. Not that you're an
Yeah.
astronaut,
Right,
just
not
that
that
you're,
you're a
you're
trained
out
astronaut.
there, like you're Looney Tunes,
Fucking guy. All right. So that's that one to start with, but I
Yeah.
mean, the Artemis mission came back successful, right? I think
It was fantastic. I watched
pretty awesome.
watched the landing.
The
We talked
landing
about it
was
last
cool.
week, I think.
Mhm.
The splashdown was great. A little slow.
Except for the glitch at the end where they couldn't leave the capsule
For 2
because
hours.
of
Oh yeah,
2
there's a
hours.
little-
And then there was a little bit of a conspiracy, I guess, when they were lifting the
panel.
capsule out of the ocean. There was like a whitish patch on the bottom, so they thought that the ablating, heat protector was failed and it was not good. But NASA replied recently, and they were saying that no, this is normal. We would expect to see that in that section because of what because of whatever. I don't know what the reason was, but
Angle
they
reactor,
said that
maybe?
it was not unexpected at all, and it was
Yeah.
not a failure of the heat protection system. So,
And there were some videos you saw from inside the capsule as they're going through the atmosphere, which was pretty illuminating. Because a lot of them, I think, there were like the visualizations of it, like on fire, so to speak, or over, heating up. But then they had some inside. You really see all the flames kinda
Yeah.
coming off. which
They
is pretty
gave all the astronauts. They had cell phones
iPhones,
with them
yeah,
with
yeah, yeah.
cameras. They were able to document the whole trip from within
pretty cool.
Orion. Yeah, it was totally cool. But yeah, some people were like, why aren't we seeing like high quality video of the whole thing from an angle that can't possibly exist being live streamed without when we don't have the the bandwidth to do that? Just ridiculous.
Well, what are they covering up? Maybe this congressperson knows what
Oh,
they're
boy.
covering up.
all
Okay,
right,
here we go.
let's do it. Oh,
Did you see
That's fucking
now? I
bad.
guess it would be about 2 weeks ago. That was very alarming. The way you said that, at least.
Yeah, well, because of the circumstances and where it was, I can't get into too much specifics. But it was elaborating on some stuff that we'd asked for, and it was important to get this person in a secure setting to where we could ask him these questions. And there was somebody in the meeting with us, one of my colleagues, I guess you'd say, was basically there just to kind of upset the apple cart and to throw a monkey wrench into the deal. And every time a question was asked by this particular party, it was really the answers were out there, and they gave them, and they gave specifics, they gave addresses, they gave times and dates, and people that were in the meeting. And this went all the way up to the executive branch of previous presidents, not this current president.
So
I mean, anyway, we
Yeah,
can
that's
start with
good.
that. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean,
basically, the claim is that there's evidence of an alien and an extraterrestrial
technology.
technology. So that's the bottom
All
line.
right,
It's like,
but-
okay,
so I mean,
same
the thing is,
shit.
the thing that sucks is that I get it. Like, if you are somebody with a superficial interest in this, like not somebody who's steeped in 30 years of UFO skepticism, and you see this, you're like, this is a U.S. representative saying he was in a high-level security meeting where somebody was telling him with dates and names and places, whatever, that we have alien bodies and alien artifacts. And so I could see how that would be compelling. But the thing is, this, we know that Congress has been taking testimony from cranks, right? So this is the person who was giving whatever testimony he's referring about doesn't necessarily know what they're talking about.
right.
And so this representative also has a long-term interest in UFOs. He's not so
Okay.
he's not somebody who is just like just a representative who happened to be on the committee that happened to
Right.
get this testimony. This is his filter. So we're getting this information fourth hand, third hand at best, whatever,
least.
through gullible filters, right? But to me, the bottom line is we've been hearing this shit for decades,
Yep.
and
Show me the money.
they never have anything to show for it. But once again, we're going through another round for this is all about to come out. They're going to make a disclosure. We're gonna, and it's always a giant nothing burger. And now here's the other thing: both Trump and J.D. Vance are both saying, and J.D. Vance specifically said, "I'm obsessed with UFOs. While I'm in this position, which I have the highest level security clearance you can have,
Yeah.
I'm going to get to the bottom of this, and I'm going to release to the public any information we're hiding about aliens."
But his interpretation of aliens. Demons are responsible.
Well, okay, whatever. The point,
It's just like,
I hear
wow,
you.
add another layer of crazy to this.
But the
Damn.
point is, if we were hiding something, the current administration would freaking be releasing
Yes.
it. They told you they would.
Yep, but they need distractions from all the other shit that's happening.
Yeah, could
And
you imagine
that would
how
be
much
a
that
hell
would
of
be
a
a
distraction.
hell of a distraction? Yeah. They wouldn't. We would no longer be talking about the Epstein files. We'd be talking about the UFO files.
That's a good point because they're into it. They have every reason to release stuff
it.
that's going to dominate conversation for months. And if they don't release it, that's actually pretty good.
But the thing is, with conspiracy
Evidence.
theories, you just always deepen the conspiracy theories because you think the president's actually in charge of things. That's the kind of bullshit
Well.
that they say. It's like, well, yeah, actually, I fucking do because that's the reality that we live in, not your fantasy land. But the conspiracy theorists just deepen it. No, it's like the lizard men who are running the world governments who are really hiding it. The
Oh
president's
yeah, there's
just
always
a
a
puppet.
layer of
Yeah,
deeper
you
crazy,
could
for
always
sure.
deepen the conspiracy to cover up any lack of evidence, right? So that's what the real hardcore conspiracy theorists will do. But the idea that the U.S. government has information about aliens and they're hiding it is unsustainable, right? Again, maybe 40 years ago you could have said, oh, like with Roswell or whatever, like it just happened and there was a cover up.
Right.
You could maybe sustain that for a few years or something. I don't know. But 50, 60, 70,
No.
80 years over multiple administrations, like what is the possible motive at this point? It's
Yeah.
just impossible.
So it's like we're at the point, or I'm at the point where don't even talk to me unless you show me an alien corpse
Yeah.
or an alien
I don't wanna-
lightsaber or phaser.
I don't want to hear
Rifle.
third-hand rumors about aliens.
Show me the money.
Show me actual verifiable evidence. Otherwise,
Undeniable.
it's just more
It's just
bullshit.
like I don't want to hear it. I don't care. There's nothing that he would say that would get my interest.
No,
Nothing.
nothing.
Nothing. Words are shit at this point for UFOs and all that shit. Done. We're over. The words are done.
Yeah. All right. Well, there it is. All right. Let's see. What do we got? Oh, we could go on to maybe some frequency healing will help you guys.
Oh,
what do
boy.
you think?
Oh man.
A little frequency.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, geez.
I was
Oh,
with, I
geez.
was with her for 95% of it.
Yeah, wait. Give her the first 95%, and let's just cut off the top 5%. Here.
Science of sound. And something just blew
Science
my
of sound.
mind.
Very
If I
cool.
take a video, I have 3 of my singing bowls out right here right now. If I take a video
like those.
of me playing a bowl, and then I stop it, and I play it back, not touching the bowl, I play the video.
But didn't you get the vibe from this that she's like thinks that she discovered
Do you see how it started
this?
ringing?
Not that
Yes.
she's demonstrating a known property.
Right, a known
She's
phenomena.
like, look what I figured out. It's like, come on. I mean, it's called resonance. Like this, you could have learned that in 5th grade science class. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's-
but I mean, it's still cool from a
Fine,
science
it's
perspective.
fine. I mean, then it's
cool.
kind of cute if you're like, oh, look, I just discovered this
Right.
thing, and it's really something that everyone should already know.
Yeah.
And it's not like a new thing. That's fine. But then when you tie it to, and therefore,
Wait, we haven't
pseudoscience.
we didn't get to that point.
That- yeah,
I'll
then-
skip ahead. I'll skip ahead. That way, people are like, yeah, she's like, it's like, oh, cool science. This one is actually
Getting
better.
touched.
And
Where she is this, and then this bowl resonates at a different frequency. very
It's
cool.
ringing.
It's ringing. Yep. Very
You can
cool.
actually see anything.
Okay, here we go.
It's being vibrated through the particles in the air
Yep.
that were vibrating from somewhere else first, but it was only
Okay.
able to be stimulated because it's the same frequency. It matches up. That's why the other bowls don't start playing when a different frequency is played. It's crazy. So what you just witnessed is a physical manifestation of what is always happening in our lives all the time, because everything is energy and everything is always vibrating at a certain frequency. I've been studying the science of sound, and
Okay, so that's the twist.
I mean, discovering a new scientific principle that people have known about for years, but you're excited about it. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Scientific discovery as you're learning scientific principles. That's great. And then the last 5 seconds had to happen. Like, oh no, don't do that. I mean, it was just such a disappointment.
And then the comments fill up about that.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
About
That's
it's
the
all
problem.
frequencies, and if you're happy, you'll attract people who are happy. And,
oh my God.
You
I
know.
hate that so much.
And then somebody wrote something totally crazy in the comments about. I know.
I've been
They
studying.
took away all the bells because they were healing us with their frequencies.
That's a classic one. Like the bells in Philly cracked or something because they did it on purpose. Or something.
They took away all the bells. I mean, come on.
I mean, there's a couple of people who are like, it's called resonance. Yeah, it's sympathetic frequency.
Yeah,
There's
there's
man.
always the people that are like, yeah, it's resonance. You know, come on.
There's always people. You can do that with a piano too, which is pretty cool. You like hold down the keys without pressing.
You could
them
do it
hard
with your
and
voice.
Slap it. Yeah. Or and sing.
If you're
and
good
it'll-
enough. Yeah.
Or
So
sing
you-
loud enough, you'll break a glass.
Yeah, you
If
could.
you're
Yeah, right.
particularly powerful.
You can sustain a note at the right
There
frequency.
it is. That's why they removed all the bells. There it is. I'm not sure what the resonance is supposed to do inside of you. Like, would it
It's
make-
magic.
Yeah, I know.
And they
It,
just
like,
go
just
from
makes
that
you
to,
feel-
and then magic, you know.
Right, and then magic happens.
The coolest resonance demonstration is that bridge collapse.
Oh, right.
Yeah, man.
The one
That
where
was
with
nuts.
the guy is running with the dog.
Yeah.
In the car. Yeah.
Yeah,
I know that
yeah.
one exactly.
And that was
Wow.
just, there was a resonance frequency between two dimensions of the bridge. Like, you're supposed to engineer that out, like, so that there's no resonant
That's
frequencies.
right.
Yeah.
Tacoma Narrows.
Tacoma
Bridge.
Narrows.
Tacoma
yeah. And
Narrows,
the-
yeah. And so then
And it was the wind,
once,
right?
yeah,
Oh, no,
a little bit of wind, but it builds up until it collapses.
like on a
picture of it.
swing, like you're on,
Yeah.
on a swing.
Exactly.
There's a picture of it collapsing, but there is video of it like really moving.
Oh my God! How many engineers were fired that day?
Well, yeah. Unfortunately, you have to
You
learn that the hard way, I guess.
fail.
I mean, they should have known before then. Resonance was known before then, right? But maybe
Yeah.
not at that.
Oh, they
large
absolutely.
of a
It was a
scale.
fail. It was not like they learned it because of this. It was.
Yeah, it was just a fail. Just a there. Look at that.
Oh my
That's
God.
crazy. That's great. I think he left the dog.
He
right?
left, and then he goes back for
And then he
him.
goes back for the dog. That's right. Yeah.
I think at this point, there's nothing you could do. The fact that it's that malleable is impressive.
Yeah.
Without immediately crashing, that's kind of impressive.
Yeah. Yeah. There's some engineering.
That's the strength of reinforced concrete, basically.
Jesus.
Let's see. At what point does it crash? Oh, there he's going back, and then comes back. Oh. Ooh. There we go. I think that's it breaking. More pixels, please.
If that happened today, there'd be like 100 videos of it.
Yeah.
From every
All
angle.
AI. Superman crashing into it.
And then there'd be AI memes based upon
Yeah,
it.
totally. Pretty epic.
Yeah,
Well,
feedback.
you know.
But, well, it says it's an example of feedback, not resonance. But doesn't the feedback depend upon there being resonant frequencies?
Yeah, I would think it would have to even get to that point. It would have
Yeah.
to.
Is that's how it builds up cumulatively, because it's like one frequency divides evenly into another, basically, is
Yeah.
the simple way of thinking about it.
Cause of the collapse was the first to be built with girders of carbon steel anchored in concrete blocks. Preceding designs typically had open lattice beam trusses underneath the roadbed. Oh yeah, so there were no trusses.
Oh, it was a known issue. They probably thought it would just never get that bad.
Yeah.
Resonance due to von Karman vortex street hypothesis.
Coriolis effect. No, it's nothing to do with the Coriolis. Coriolis effect is a large scale
Yeah, it's way
effect.
too
It's
big.
not. It's not a small enough effect to impact anything like a bridge or a toilet. or
Here's
a
the
pool.
equation, y'all. Use this equation, okay? Frequency of vortices in the von Karman vortex street is called the Strauhal frequency. All right, so you guys calculate that and get back to me. All right, next week. All right, so let's.
Want to do the speed one?
Yes, speed. Which one was the
Speed.
speed? Not this one. No, that was the raised by conspiracy. Oh, yeah, here we go. All right, so also along the NASA lines, but specifically with Artemis, those things are booking. Those things are getting up to high speeds, but some people don't seem to.
25,000 kilometers an hour. Is that the? What was the top speed?
Yeah, I
of
think it was
Artemis?
like 25,000 to 40,000, right? At some points, maybe feet per second. Was that what it was? Or miles? Oh no, you're right. Miles per hour. That was.
Or kilometers per hour.
Artemis speed. Speed. 25,000 miles per hour, you're right.
25,000 miles per hour, or 40,000 kilometers per hour.
That's right.
How many feet per second is that?
How many feet per second?
14,000.
14,000. Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah,
No, 36,000 feet per second.
How many?
36,000.
36,000
But
feet
that's
per
the
second.
peak speed. It's not necessarily like
Yeah, peak.
what it was at.
So he even gets that wrong.
Yeah. All right. So here, let's watch this guy.
9,000 feet per second looks like.
Feet per second.
I tell you
Check
what.
it out.
Tell you, I'll learn you something. Boom.
That was cool.
Pretty quick. Pretty quick on land.
Do I got to say anything else?
Yes.
Is that electromagnetic?
I mean, the only thing I know faster than that right there is Jerry Michelet and a Skeeter bass boat with a Yamaha 250 on the back of it. So, y'all do with that what you want, but these are just facts of life. That rocket was not going 14,000 feet per second.
So,
Period.
so 9,000 feet per second is okay. He's okay with that, but you go to 14, that's
It's hard
too
to tell if
much.
this is Poe or no, if he's just being kind of goofy intentionally.
Yeah.
Or if he's
But again, you read the comments and all the anti-NASA people come out and go,
Yeah,
yeah, there's no way
unfortunately,
they were going that fast.
Well, I guess what's the claim you think in his mind? That it's too heavy to possibly push something that fast?
I don't
big.
know.
I don't know, because
But some of the commenters act as if speed is a thing, meaning that, you know what I mean? Like,
No.
they think that it isn't. Speed is not a thing because it's with relativity. The only thing that matters is your speed relative to something else.
well, yeah, there's that.
Yes,
I think they'd lose their mind if you said, yeah, relative to that star way over there, you're going at near the speed of light. How about that?
right.
I mean, you know.
Well, they do.
other
Some people even
galaxy.
mention that, like, we're supposed to be going around the sun at 500,000 kilometers per hour. It's like, okay, but that's all relative. It doesn't matter. Also, the thing is, like, you don't experience velocity.
Velocity, right?
Right?
Right.
There's nothing, you cannot know what your velocity is except by comparing it to something else. There's no internal way that you can determine your own velocity.
Right. Any scientific experiment that you could perform would be indistinguishable from another scientific experiment going at a completely different velocity.
Yes.
But it's
It's
acceleration. That's the.
So that's the thing is people don't realize the difference between speed and acceleration,
Yeah.
or velocity and acceleration. And yeah, those guys were pulling 4 Gs for like 15 minutes, you know?
Yeah.
I remember when we
Wow.
interviewed Rusty
That's
Schweikart
something.
on the show. He's one of the Apollo astronauts, and he's like, when you feel that much acceleration for that long, then you sort of get a sense for how freaking fast you are going.
And do you remember he said that during that acceleration, when the rocket's taking off, the control panel in front of him is a little bit closer to him. They had to take into account the fact that it's actually going to be compressed. The entire
Well, it did. The whole thing got compressed by the forces.
a couple of inches.
And
I
then
don't
when
remember.
they cut off, he loosened up. Remember that he loosened up his belt because it was like choking him. And then when they turn off the engine, the rocket uncoils like a spring. So then he got thrown forward and just like came within 2 inches of the control. His head comes within 2 inches of the control panel. He's like, "Ooh, I better tell the next guys about that thing." You better,
yeah.
you got to keep those straps
Pro
tight.
tip. Pro tip.
Pro tip. Because when that engine goes off, that uncoils like a freaking spring. Yeah, but anyway, whatever. I mean, just again, it's like this is the argument from personal incredulity, right? It's not even like, oh, look at this amazing coincidence. This is just that's too fast. How could people possibly go that fast? But what's your actual point? What are you saying? Like you're not even saying enough for us to know like how much you are completely misunderstanding physics, or in what way you are misunderstanding physics. Right? It's just that you just don't get it. And then you're parlaying your inability to understand basic physics into therefore there's a conspiracy going on.
Right.
But you
It's a little Dunning and
there's some Dunning-Kruger
Kruger
in
going
there.
in there for
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I could superficially tell that this is fake, and all these other scientists with almost an infinite amount more of knowledge and experience are got it wrong, or they're just lying. Lying to
or
their
they're
teeth.
in on it. Yeah.
There's also some like implicit understanding, seemingly on his part, that he could do the thing where that rocket was going 9,000 feet or whatever on the rail. That was something he could possibly do. I'm like, there's probably a lot of science that went into that you have no idea how to even accomplish. Like whatever that thing was that was going 9,000 feet per second on the rail. It's like, yeah, that's crazy science too. Like,
right. I mean, but it might be a Poe because
It could be.
The fact that he's okay with 9,000 but not 14.
Right,
I mean,
like
that's a bridge too far, so to
Yeah,
speak.
yeah.
Tacoma Bridge too far.
Yeah.
anyway, I mean, it's just, I don't know. I guess is he begging the question that it's all fake? It's all a conspiracy. Nothing's happening. They're just wasting our money. All right, let's see. What do we got else? Oh, this guy that Bob wanted to talk about, right? This freaking guy. Road tripping
man.
is everything
Road
AI.
tripping is the word.
He's tripping on something.
Okay, I just thought of the most insane conspiracy theory. It just blew my own fucking mind. Okay, let me explain.
Blew his own mind.
You know how there's like a list of things the government had before us, you know, like medicine and weapons and GPS and facial recognition, Velcro, you know, just basically
Velcro.
everything that we have, you know, they had
Velcro is actually one of the
way before, you know, just like, you know, technologies and stuff. But I don't think I ever applied it to what's going on right now. And what's going on right now is clearly like the whole AI thing. You know, it just feels like AI was just released out into the open and everyone got it at the same time. What if they didn't? What if AI has been around for a very long time, but they just released it to us, the public? Now, for an example, you know, it's kind of hard to distinguish what is real and fake right now. It's March 30th, 2026. It's like kind of hard, okay? It's like, I don't know, like that's pretty crazy. So imagine how fucking easy all of this would be to do it 60 years ago. I don't know, maybe for an example, your history textbook, anything that's happened ever, you know, you see like a shitty photo that's like black and white, and it's like, what if that shit was AI the whole time? And just every historical event or groups of historical event just completely fabricated. Because we all know the government holds on to shit for about 80 years before anyone else gets it. So,
All right. Anyway.
All right. So,
so,
what are the
let me
odds?
ask
What are the odds that there's some special gummy bears in that car during this trip? Do you want to see something specific?
I want to start with what is the initial logical fallacy he's making in that video?
Yeah. The initial.
Feel free to guess in the chat.
Argument
as well.
from ignorance
You do
is part of this. He's
It's not the core of what he's doing.
It's subcore.
Of course.
It's in.
The moron fallacy.
What?
So specifically, he's saying that the government had access to these specific technologies before they were released to the public. Therefore, they had access to every technology before it was released to the public. So what is that? That is
slippery.
a hasty generalization.
Okay.
That's what that is. He's doing the hasty generalization.
All right. So this is very similar to the claims that we got this technology that we have now from aliens. This is very similar to that, because what this guy is completely not taking into account the fact that technology has an evolution, and most often it's a public evolution.
It's a paper trail. There's a paper
there's
trail.
an absolute paper trail. So you've got machine learning, like multi-layer neural nets. I mean, have been born and evolved in the public. There is GPUs, graphical processing units, that do a lot of the heavy lifting here. This we are intimately familiar with when they were created and how they've been improving over time. The internet itself, in terms of like digital data that these LLMs can use for training, that is also has not been available for 60 years or 30 years or anything like that. So this stuff has been evolving in the public. There's no way it would be impossible. For the government to have that 60 years ago.
Yeah, remember
There's no way they had.
We were interviewing an AI expert. This is like even a few years ago. There's like, what is it? What has changed? Why are AI so much more powerful now than they were years ago?
Those three reasons I gave are huge.
And they said, well, it's because computers are more powerful and because we have way more training data.
Yep.
Right? Two things which did not exist previously.
Right. And transformer technology, of course,
and
is a huge
but this was actually even before that, like when we were doing this
right.
interview. And so you say, yes, we are tweaking the algorithms, we are getting better, blah, blah, blah. Now we would say, yes, that's like the transformer technology, absolutely. But really, the big factors are computing power and training data. We're just training them on bigger data. And again, so does this guy think, again, whether this may be a Poe, but if this is not a Poe, does this guy think or not understand that AI requires massive data centers? I mean, does he think the government secretly had these massive data centers that 50 years ago would have been the size of a fucking city? You know what I mean?
At least.
With existing, they basically couldn't exist. The amount of
that nuance. He's not aware of the evolution of this.
Tim
type
is just
of
in his
technology.
phone. The AI is in my phone. The government could have had it. Whatever.
I can't trust pictures today. What that means, I couldn't trust pictures that are supposedly 50 years old either because of AI slop.
Right. But again, he's saying that the government has technology before we get it, and then there uses a few legitimate examples, and says therefore the government gets access to all technology. He's like, no. Some technology is developed by the government for government use, military, space, whatever. Like you have DARPA, you have whatever. There are government agencies that develop technology or the subcontractors for the government, right? Where it's like this is proprietary government technology for whatever, usually military, but sure, spy stuff or for the space program, whatever. But that doesn't mean that they develop all technologies that even, there are many technologies that are developed by private corporations in the public domain. There are even publicly traded corporations that's literally in the public domain in partnership with universities that are publishing their data in peer-reviewed journals like that are open to the public. Whatever. He has a child's eye view of the world and has no idea how any of this works.
And I think in the past, I'm not 100% sure, but I think in the past, the government and the military did have access to more of the cutting edge, like computing technology. But I think that's far less true today in terms of, especially in terms of computers, because that's like they're not using computers that the public can use.
Don't they have access to like computer chips that go in like cruise missiles and shit that like are not available to the public?
I mean,
those are the chips that we're trying to keep out of the hands of like China and stuff.
But are they superior to like chips that like universities can use in supercomputers? I mean, they may be hardened, radiation resistant, and more and hardier.
They're better. They're faster, better, more powerful, whatever.
In some ways, but I think that's less true than in the past.
But they're still at least one notch ahead of civilian use computer chips, like what's going in your car. Or your computer, your desktop, or even even for research purposes, there are laws that say you can't sell these chips to these countries. These are military grade, whatever. High end. I think only Taiwan can produce them. This is the whole issue of why we don't want China to take over Taiwan, because then they own all the fucking chips that we need in our military. You know what I mean? Anyway, but that doesn't mean it's true of everything. It doesn't mean it's true of, civilian technology. It's just crazy.
Well.
And hell, Bob, we know that the government had access to bionic activity like 60 years ago. I saw a whole documentary on it. The $6 Million Man.
Wasn't even that expensive.
More like 26 million today.
Steve Austin, dropping this in the
Steve Austin chips. Unless you're talking about Stone Cold Steve Austin. All right, here we go. Let's go to this. So, raised by conspiracy theorists.
Oh, boy.
This is a short one, but it kind of might spur some discussion. Let's see what they have to
showed
say.
Me the loose change video about how 9/11 was an inside job when I was 11 years old. I'm now 30, and you could probably guess who I watch on a regular basis.
The
My
Skeptic's
parents
Guide to
showed
the
me the
Universe,
list.
right? I mean, that's
right.
Is that
That's
was that what
she's
she
saying.
meant?
That's what she's saying.
Well,
What
that's
she watches
interesting.
SGU.
You could use the same anecdote and react to it in diametrically opposed way. Like there's a lot of people in the comments like, "That's right, that loose change is my awakening," But it's also like, yeah, that's like child abuse. That what those parents did was damaging.
Absolutely.
It had lasting negative effects. Absolutely. Loose change, man, is bad because was it 2 hours? It's a long movie, like a feature-length movie where they are just relentlessly building a case for the 9/11 conspiracy, right? That there was 9/11 was an inside job. And it does all the anomaly hunting things that I talked about, right? It's all about what's this guy doing and what about this? Just asking questions, kind of bullshit. But if you're not a skeptic, if you don't understand conspiracy thinking, you don't understand why this is all bullshit, it can overwhelm you with the if there's smoke, there's fire kind of an argument. It's like, well, there's got to be something going on. There's just so many things that they're pointing out. But yeah, it's dangerous because it just leads people down this conspiracy rabbit hole that people are still, that's the rest of their lives. They're in that conspiracy rabbit hole.
I wonder how wacky she really is.
Yeah,
now.
I don't know. I didn't bother looking.
She's probably
for
got some other videos.
Other videos, yeah. I didn't have time to do that.
Yeah,
Do a deep dive.
I put some money down that she's kind of wacky at this. I mean, if you're gonna make a video like that,
Did you see the hashtag with that? Who she's referring
woman.
to? With like who she watches?
No.
You want to take a guess?
Alex Jones or Joe Rogan?
No.
So
Art Bell.
What
That's
is this?
a little old.
Is this
No.
in the comments?
Well,
or?
she's like, you can guess who I watch.
And she did hashtag.
And she did hashtag a person.
Who?
Candace Owens.
Who?
Candace Owens. Are you familiar with Candace
No.
Owens? She's okay. Well, that's actually probably good for your mental health. She's one of the worst things that's come out of Connecticut.
Connecticut, huh?
She's like, she's a weird. I don't know. She's a right wing reactionary weirdo. Like,
Yeah, she's a
doing a
conspiracy
lot of weird
weirdo.
stuff. I mean, she's doing a lot of infighting. So with the other right wingers, so maybe that's kind of fun. So I'll
Like
let her
dueling
do that.
conspiracy
Dueling
theories kind of
conspiracy.
stuff?
Yeah.
Get the
so
camera
I'll
off
let her
me.
do that. Sorry about that, Bob.
You can get both of us.
All right. Actually, you go ahead. What were you gonna say, Bob?
Nothing.
Okay,
I'm good.
Well, I want to show you something then.
All right.
If you're going to say nothing. Here we go. Let's look at this. I think I showed you this before. Maybe. Let's see. This is a model of Sauron.
Sauron. the
Yeah.
deceiver.
This Argentinian dude is.
He made the costume.
Wait, is that?
He made. I think it's just a sculpture.
Yeah.
But
Sculpture?
you'll see something. That happens. Let's see. He goes this. It's in slow motion. That's why he's kind of moving slow. Watch what happens next. And he freaks out because it as he's moving the hand, it kind of jostles the head and it starts moving at him.
And he had a little
And he's
mini
like,
heart attack.
He's like,
That's awesome.
oh wait, sorry.
So
Sorry,
he made
TikTok. He made it.
Yeah.
So he's just moving. He's fixing the hand, fixing it, and it just slightly turns towards him.
Which means that head moved a lot quicker than we're seeing here.
Oh yeah, it's much faster. It's like
I wish people would show. They don't show the real time footage, the real time speed, like they should. Slow motion is great, but show me also real time speed because sometimes you want to see what it looked like in reality.
Like that.
Okay. There was a pretty decent Sauron costume at DragonCon in previous years.
Speaking of DragonCon, we're going to go back there, which is fun. All right, let me see if I got... Well, I have this really long one. I don't know. I mean, we have... I guess we have time. It's kind of an interesting story that starts out a little, like, head-scratchy.
Yeah.
All right, let's listen to it. We have plenty of time. I don't really have a ton of other things after this. We'll just wait for Steve to get his cans in. Summoning ritual complete. Not the best, Owens. Yeah. Not the best. Okay, here we go. Let's see what you think of this guy's story.
In the summer of 2016, I was diving alone in the Puget Sound in Washington State. Now, it was the middle of the night, about 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was about 60 feet underwater. Now, if any of you...
Okay, does that give you any pause?
It's pretty soft. Yeah. It's pretty soft. I haven't...
Oh, sorry. He said he was in the Puget Sound in the middle of the night, 2 a.m.
Diving 60 feet down.
60 feet down in the pitch black.
And apparently by himself?
By himself, yeah.
Sound before. You know that in the daytime, if you're 60 feet underwater in the Puget Sound, your visibility is low. A few feet, maybe 10 feet. Well, in the middle of the night when it's pitch black, your visibility is 0. You can't see your hand in front of your face. I mean, you could
Why are you
literally
down
put
there?
it right up to your mask. You cannot see it. The only thing that I could see was what's called a tack board. It's just a little plastic board that has 2 handles on either side. In the middle of it, it's got a glow-in-the-dark compass and a depth gauge so that I can see what direction I'm going in and how deep I am. So I'm just swimming along, looking at my compass, trying to keep my azimuth, trying to keep my target destination in mind, and trying to maintain my depth at 60 feet. Well, not only is it perfectly pitch black, but the Puget Sound is full of jellyfish. And so I'm swimming along and these jellyfish are just stinging me in the face, which is not a great thing to have happen to you when you're 60 feet underwater. Not the most pleasant of experiences. Well, anyways, but I'm going
All right. Well, first impressions. I'll let you in on a secret. There's a twist that you won't be as skeptical at the beginning, but first impressions of what this guy is doing. Anybody? Like,
I
what
mean,
the hell are
I
you
mean, he sounds
doing?
like a professional diver.
Totally unsafe. I mean, I can't
think it'd be
imagine.
unsafe. Mhm.
2 a.m. is super. Like, why would you do 2 a.m.? What's
I mean,
what's
it was
what's the reason?
What's the reason?
Couldn't
Is he
sleep that night. Might as
part
well.
of a rescue team or something.
Oh, okay. I like this. I like where we're going.
along,
Okay,
you know,
here we go.
I'm doing what I got to do. When all of a sudden, out of nowhere, something huge, I mean, something massive comes out of the darkness and it slams me directly in the face hard. And it knocks my regulator, my breathing apparatus, out of my mouth. So now I'm 60 feet underwater in the pitch black and I can't breathe. I don't have any air. But, you know, I'm a trained diver, so I'm quickly able to relocate my regulator.
Good, as you should.
Put it back in my mouth. And then I reach down and I grab some chem lights out of my BCD, my buoyancy compensator device, and I crack them and I send them up to the surface to my surface boat, my dive boat, to let them know I've just been attacked by something.
So there's other people there.
But this is something that they actually would have expected. And even though I couldn't see this thing that came after me, it's also something that I expected. Even though it's scary to happen out of nowhere, I knew it was coming at some point. As unnerving as that is, I knew it was coming. And the reason I knew it was coming.
Why did you think the reason you knew it was coming?
Because he was looking for it.
He was looking for it, maybe. Is there anything on the screen that might give an indication of what that thing might have
A
been?
dolphin.
Does he have an innate echolocation ability?
He might be part
Is
dolphin.
because the thing that attacked me, the thing that slammed me in the face, was a 600-pound bottlenose dolphin.
The Jaws music.
Now, again, that probably doesn't sound normal to you. But the reason it was normal to me is because I worked at the time for the Navy Marine Mammal Program. I worked as a defense contractor for the Department of the Navy as a dolphin and sea lion trainer / diver.
Okay, are you familiar with this
Yes.
program? Okay. There
Yeah, that they were training them to like find underwater mines or to spy on submarines or something. And so I know that there was a Navy training program using dolphins for underwater military operations.
Exactly.
Yeah, would they put like bombs on them and use them to blow up shit?
I don't know if they would sacrifice the dolphins from
Yeah.
what he talks about. But yeah, let's go into a little bit more because he goes into what they were doing it for.
And my job on this night was to be an opposing force diver. You see, in Bremerton or Silverdale, Washington, we have a nuclear submarine base. And all of our nuclear submarines are protected in port at all times by at least 1 Navy Dolphin and 2 Navy Sea Lions. And their job is they detect enemy divers if there ever was one. Their job is to find these divers and to stop them before any enemy diver could ever place a limpet mine on one of our ships. So that's what they do. And as an animal trainer, that was part of my job, is occasionally, you know, I would have to be the opposing force diver. I would have to play the target. play as if I was an enemy diver trying to place a mine on one of these ships. So they would drop you off
Not Navy
hundreds
SEALs.
and hundreds
Navy
of
SEAL
yards,
guys.
maybe half a mile out into the ocean. And your job is to look at that compass and maintain your depth. And you just dive towards one of these submarines and you try and reach one of the submarines. And if you reach the submarine, then the
kill
animal
the dolphin.
has
They get
failed its
fired.
job.
Yeah,
And the training team that's
No more
working
tuna for
that
you.
animal at the time has failed its job. But on this occasion, they did not fail. They
Wow.
found me. But what's funny is the reason the animal hit me in the face. You see, normally these dolphins are trained to hit you in the body. So what happens is I can't tell you exactly how it works because it's a secret program. If you're interested, go on YouTube or go to the Naval Museum in Silverdale. There's more information there, more than I'm legally allowed to tell you. But what happens is these animals are given equipment that they carry in their mouths. The dolphins, their job is to detect you, then they ram you over and over again. They basically mark your location. And then the sea lions, their job is to go down, and the sea lions are the ones that actually stop you. They arrest you. It's non-lethal, but
Not arrest like a police officer. Like,
it's very
arrest
effective.
your
he
movement.
means arrest,
Again,
yeah,
I
you're
can't tell
breathing,
you
bro.
exactly how it works. But anyways, all
They
that to
bitch
say,
slap you.
Yeah.
the dolphins are trained to hit you in the body, where the impact of the equipment that they're carrying is going to be most effective. But the thing is, these animals are so smart and they have such individual personalities. I mean, they're literally like people. It's incredible to work with them. But they get angry. I mean, they're basically like maybe like 7 or 8 year old kids. They get mad. And this particular dolphin was mad. Now, they communicate with us when we send them out on their missions to go locate these divers. They come back and they communicate with us by touching a series of colored paddles that are attached to the side of our boat. So they'll touch them in a series and they will tell us in that way what they see. But what happens occasionally is they lie to us because when they're doing their job, we reward them for doing a good job by giving them food. And they, of course, are smart enough to know that. And therefore, they are smart enough to eventually begin to develop a habit of lying. So they'll come back and they'll touch the paddles and they'll tell us, like, I see this, 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 and this, and this. And, you know,
Yeah,
a
free
lot of the
fish.
time we don't believe them, but we will give them the equipment necessary to go do their job. And they'll go out and try and do it, but eventually, like, the gig is up because they'll get to a point where, like, okay, well, I actually didn't see what I told them I saw, so they'll just drop the equipment. And we know the difference between equipment that has been just dropped and equipment that has actually been deployed on a target. It looks very different. So when they just ditch the equipment, they just drop it, we know, like, okay, you definitely were just lying to us. And we won't reward them for that. Of course, we don't want them to lie to us. But if they do it multiple times and we don't reward them, but they're still out there doing what they think is work, they'll get ticked off. And so this dolphin, this night, he had been lying to his trainer multiple times, saying like, oh, hey, I see a target, I see a target. Eventually, he really did see a target, but he hadn't been rewarded the multiple times before for, you know, saying that he had seen a target and going out, you know, swimming after one. So he was ticked off. The dolphin was angry. And so by the time he
Like
saw
working with
me,
AI, yeah.
you know, 60 feet under the water, middle of the night, he was pissed. And so he hit me right in the face. They're smart enough to know how we breathe underwater on scuba. I don't know how they're that smart. I don't know if they can hear it. I have no idea. But they're smart enough to know, and they know that they can stop us from breathing by hitting us in the face and taking that regulator out of our mouths. It's the craziest thing in the world, but I swear to you, they really are that smart. And when this dolphin saw me, he had it out for me, and he just hit me right in the face. He said, you're not breathing anymore. But anyways, you know, not a big deal as a diver. I found it. But, you know, I know this issue is controversial for a lot of people, keeping these animals, dolphins and sea lions, in captivity. But I also want you to know they do provide an amazing service to this nation. They don't just stop enemy divers. We also use them to detect underwater unexploded ordnance and mines. We've used them in Iraq. We've deployed them all over the world to war-torn countries where we get rid of mines and UXO to make sure that people are safe. And also these animals work in open water. So if they ever want to run away, they completely can. They wear harnesses with a bunch of gear on them, but the harnesses have these zinc attachments on the attachment points to where if they choose to run away, if they were to just say, I'm done with this, and they ran away, those zinc attachments will dissolve in salt water and they'll break apart and their harnesses will release. So they would just be like any other animal out there. They won't get caught on anything. You know, that's happened a few times. Most of the time it doesn't, because, you know, the animal does know that when it comes back home, it will get fed, and they're treated very well. We have an amazing team of doctors and veterinarians, trainers, assistant trainers, all for the animals. They get fed human grade food, like food that's fit for consumption for people. They have the best treatment in the entire world. Again, I know it's controversial.
Okay.
I know these animals are.
Wow,
so it started out a little like, what the
Yeah.
heck is he talking about?
Why are you
That's
doing
why
that?
I liked it when I first saw it.
It's cool.
very
I
cool.
feel compelled to say, though, I'm not disputing anything he's saying, but you have to be very careful about interpreting the motivations of animals based upon their behavior, because we have a tendency to anthropomorphize and to overinterpret. And so saying things like they're lying is kind of putting a human interpretation on the behavior. They're engaging in behavior that they are being conditioned to behave in, that gives them the rewards, right? And you know, so saying like that they're angry, like you don't know what they're really feeling, or they may be frustrated or whatever. Who knows?
Or even trying to knock the regulator out of his mouth. That's not necessarily true at all.
Hard. You be careful, be very cautious before you infer motivation and understanding based upon behavior, even for very smart animals. There's the whole, idea of like teaching primates to talk and how that has been massively overinterpreted. It's very controversial. It's just so easy. It's like clever Hans effect, basically. It's just so easy to fall into that.
Yeah.
So just a word of caution about taking that at face value.
I never heard of anything like any program like that, though. That's interesting.
Yeah,
I've heard about it.
Yeah,
I've read
been
about
around
it.
for-
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of I think they did fanciful things with the dolphins they thought they could have them do. Like planting the mines might be a little bit far-fetched as opposed to finding a human swimming around. Maybe that's easier for a dolphin than modern technology that we have.
I don't know. I forget if dolphins are on the mirror test list. They might be.
Mirror test? Oh, maybe.
I think if I had to guess, I think they are. But I'm not
Let us know
sure.
in the chat. But I thought it was a fun video, given that you could look at his appearance, the way he started, everything, and you might have come to a different conclusion in the first 20 seconds. Like, this guy's full of. But then you go further, another minute or two. And you're like, shit, that's like a real thing.
Didn't see that coming. Yeah.
So I thought it was an interesting little video. Got a lot of likes, so good for him. Excellent beard, somebody said. Grim beard said as well. Yeah, very nice beard. Good
Imagine
job on
being
that.
60 feet down.
That part, I was like, what do you do?
You got to know what you're doing.
But not only that, I mean, I've been 60 feet down during the day, and it was wonderful, but I can't imagine being in the dark 60 feet down.
You can't even see your hand.
But basically waiting for an attack.
Yeah.
You know an attack will probably come, and bam, this 600-pound torpedo basically rams right into you. I mean, they must do... It can't be... If they wanted to hit you hard and literally kill you, I think they could do that. I mean, that's a lot of kinetic energy
famously,
underwater.
dolphins attack sharks, right? Isn't that the whole, the primary competition, so to speak? They kill them.
Someone mentions the videos of animals, like dogs and cats, pressing buttons to communicate. That's all clever Hans bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced about
Or
any
AI.
of that. Yeah. And then somebody else was talking about that they know their dog misses them because of how they behave when they get home. Absolutely. I mean, dogs display basic emotions. I don't think that requires over-interpretation. They definitely show when they're happy or when they're sad, or my dog has the most pathetic puppy eyes when we leave. Like he's trying to again, I don't know. I say he's trying to lay the guilt on. That's how I interpret his behavior as a human. But he clearly has an emotion. And yeah, there's no question. And we know that dogs have a high degree of neuronal density, and it's in the parts of the brain that are involved in socialization. They evolved, their path to domestication was largely about communicating with humans, communicating emotions with humans and responding to them. Absolutely. So that is all fine.
It's weird though, growing up with a dog and seeing like their reactions. Like when you come back after a week-long or 2-week-long vacation, they're like Bocce, little American Eskimo, losing his shit, clearly overjoyed.
Yeah.
And then coming home to a cat after
they're like, "Oh, you again."
It's like about time, man. I want snacks now. I mean, and cats vary a lot. I understand that, but and they show some affect, what appears to be affection, but not like a dog, man.
But isn't it funny that we think of cats as more intelligent when it's like
they're not?
It be the opposite? Yeah, like
the dogs are more intelligent than cats.
More intelligent,
but a lot of that intelligence is social intelligence.
Right.
Yeah. It's like,
But they have much greater neuronal density than cats do.
Well, what about the because you guys talked about it, I think on the last one, like in terms of fairness, there's also seems to be fairness in the animal kingdom too.
Yeah, the animals some animal species have a documented sense of justice, and no, seriously, like if but again, it's all behavior. It's all just sort of evolutionarily programmed behavior, but it does follow paradigms of justice. For example, there are some birds where if one bird sees a predator, they will give an alarm for all the other birds. Get into your nest, there's a hawk coming, they're going to eat you. If one bird doesn't do that, then there's reciprocity. The other birds will either gang up on them or they won't return the favor. So they absolutely, you did not do your job for the community, therefore the community is going to ice you out, kind of thing. You know what I mean? So yeah, there are behaviors that follow paradigms of justice and reciprocity in the animal kingdom. Yeah. And there's no reason not to think that we don't have the same algorithms in our head too. Yeah. We think that's just right, or it's morally or ethically proper. It's like whatever. But a lot of it is just that you just evolved those algorithms.
It's still amazing though to see that a small bird brain. I mean, and what
they're dense, right?
What complex behaviors like crows.
Some birds, the corvids especially, are very smart. Parrots, very smart. They just have a very different brain than primate brains, than mammal brains. They evolved along a different path, a different kind of smart. But they're like corvids are amazing at problem solving.
Oh man,
yeah.
Yeah, I think I played this video previously of these monkeys, I guess, getting unequal pay. You've probably seen this one. Let me flip it. Whoop.
Yeah.
This one.
Oh yeah, right.
Yep. They give it a cucumber versus a grape. It's like, hey,
what the fuck?
What the fuck, dude? I love the emotion, if you want to call it that, like throwing his head back.
Oh yeah, that's emotion, man.
It's like, no, I don't.
Well, the thing is, primates are evolutionarily very close to us, so we can extrapolate human emotions to primary emotions.
Look at that.
The farther afield you go, the harder it is to extrapolate our emotions. So other mammals, to some extent, but you got to be careful. Yeah. Birds are very different than us.
Yeah, man. Dinosaurs.
But but monkeys, absolutely, they're almost human. Basically their basic emotional, wiring. Yeah, it is. That's why it's so uncanny. It's so funny to watch monkeys or apes display human emotions because it freaking is human emotion.
It's mean to watch this. I feel
it
like
is.
Where he's like so frustrated. Clearly,
I don't know if I could do that job.
No, I know. I would just be like, "Here, have a grape." I'm sorry.
Take the grape.
At the very least, at the very end of that test, I would be like,
"I'm sure they do." Yeah. When it's all over, it's like, "All right, here's your fucking grapes."
Please don't rise up and kill us. Oh gosh. Anyway, all right. So there was that. What happened to this camera? There it goes. All right, let's look at some of the stuff I think you wrote on SBM and Neurologica. So you wrote something on a new study on clinical decision making. We could just maybe
So we're sort of a series of articles I'm writing on science-based medicine and other of my fellow authors about AI in medicine because it's happening. It's happening now.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like one of those situations where we're building the plane as we're flying it. Like we're studying AI as
when
we're
that
already incorporating it. But there's really important unanswered questions. And to me, as an educator, again, I taught how to think like a doctor for 30 years to all levels of my colleagues, right? Students, interns, residents, fellows, attendings. And I've studied it both as a skeptic, as a neurologist, and as an educator, like the difference between analytical versus intuitive thinking and how they both cooperate together and what expertise actually means. So now AI is like a new layer, right? It's like, how does AI fit into these paradigms of clinical decision making that, I've been thinking about and teaching for 30 years. And so the new study that prompted that article, they were saying, all right, so you've probably all read, and we've talked about on the show, how AI chatbots like ChatGPT or whatever can pass like certification exams. Like they could pass the medical boards, they could pass board certification exams. But the question is, how good of a measure is that of actually being a clinician, of being a doctor? And we know it isn't like the ultimate arbiter of that, because it's basically a bunch of multiple choice questions, right? I mean, we try to get as clinical as we can in those questions. I've actually been at one time I was writing those questions for a very specific exam, so I even know what it means, what it's like to be on that side of it. But anyway, it's you can only it's a really good test of knowledge. Do you know this fact, right?
Right.
And it's and you can get more sophisticated questions where you're saying, all right, do you know the relative importance of these things? Like a patient presents with this symptom, what would be the first study you would do? Like that kind of question. So you have to have not only know about the disease and about how we test for it, but what the first study to do is, like the most important.
Is that part of the exam as well?
Yeah.
That level? Okay.
Yeah.
And they do well on that.
They do well on that, but that's all multiple choice questions. But the thing is, clinical decision making is so much more complicated than that. So what this study was, they rather than giving the AI multiple choice questions,
what did it do?
They gave them vignettes. A vignette is
here's
a
story.
Scene,
here's a scenario.
Is a story like a patient presents with these symptoms, this history, and these exam findings, and then it's like, all right, generate a differential diagnosis. Generate a plan for which tests you would do. And then it's like, and here are the results of the test you ordered. Now what do you do? And then what's your final diagnosis? What's your final treatment plan? So we do this all the time. This is how we're teaching in person.
But so verbally. But that I would think that'd be a part of a really good test too, a written test.
Well, it's hard to do that. It's hard to do that all in writing, because you have to have it like choose your own adventure style kind of all laid out. We do that in workshops and case presentations and oral exams, right? That requires an interactive physician to really do that. So
it's kind of like
that's attending. Those are attending round kind of.
That's kind of like LARPing.
It is,
right?
There's often a role playing element, and sometimes we have somebody play the patient. We will do that.
There you go.
Or we have actual patients who have agreed to tell their story as part of a teaching rounds. So that's more of a attending rounds kind of a thing. All right. Here's the patient. What's your differential diagnosis? What's your first test you're going to order? All right, here's the result of that test. Now what are you going to do? Whatever. Like what's the thing you can't miss? Or what's the worst case scenario here? Whatever. We ask those kinds of questions. So now they're basically doing that with the LLMs.
Oh man. Okay, cool.
How do you think they did?
I would say they did not nearly as good, but okay, middling.
They didn't do well.
Not flat out not
like
well.
Like 40%, 50%.
Wow.
So, which is not surprising, and here's the variables that correlated with them doing better or worse. They did better when they had really complete information, and the more spotty the information, they really dropped off a cliff. They did not do well, which again, that makes sense, because the hardest thing, I don't need these in my ears, the hardest thing for a clinician to deal with is lack of information. And so you have to make decisions even when you have imperfect information, even when you're lacking the information you want to have.
Right.
And here's the thing with vignettes, because the vignettes themselves are not a perfect correlate to being in the clinic, right? Because someone had to write that vignette, right? And whoever did that is already collecting, curating information and filtering information and telling a story. And they're already biasing. It's really hard not to.
Right.
Even to the point where it's kind of a joke that we share with the students. It's like, yeah, I know that today's lecture is on disorders of the spinal cord, but pretend like you don't know that for a minute and tell me what you think the differential, because it's presenting a spinal cord case and during a spinal cord class. But sometimes it's like, it's like the information you include in the vignette is itself a clue. Why did I include that bit of information? It's different when you have a blank slate and you're getting the information. You're curating.
Messy. It's a lot messier.
The real world is messy. It's noisy. It's a noisy information environment, and you have to know how to weight different pieces of information based upon how the patient related to you, or you have to also say, is that something the patient thinks or remembers, or did that actually happen? Or are they mixing in their interpretation of what's happening? Or you have to know how to get to the bottom of all these sub-questions about the quality of the information you're getting. But then even without that layer of it, there's still here's a bunch of information, half of it are red herrings, that's just part of the background noise of taking a clinical history. And some of the key bits of information are not there because nobody asked. Because you know why? Because there isn't one standard history you take, because I had to teach my students over and over again, the history is an investigation. The history derives from your differential diagnosis, and your exam derives from your differential diagnosis.
What is a differential diagnosis?
Differential diagnosis is, the patient presents with whatever, signs, symptoms.
Yeah.
You say, whatever, I can't, I woke up this morning, I can't walk. All right, what's the differential diagnosis at that stage? Right, so you have to be able to generate a differential diagnosis from the chief complaint, and then after you do your history, then after you do your exam, and then after you order all your tests, your first round of testing.
Yeah.
Because your differential diagnosis evolves. So what actually happens in the real world is I'm seeing a patient, whatever, I'm going to the emergency room or they're coming into my clinic and they're saying, I'm having headaches. All right. So that's the approach to a patient who presents with headache, right? So now I need to generate a differential diagnosis based just on that information.
So these are just possible explanations?
Yeah, they're possible diagnoses.
At this stage?
From the most likely to the least likely.
So then the second stage differential diagnosis would be a winnowing down.
So then you winnow down the differential diagnosis. So first you do it by the history, then you do it by the exam, then you do it by your testing. Right, it's a constant process. At first, you start with the widest differential diagnosis possible, and then you progressively winnow it down until you have your final diagnosis.
Do you sometimes, though, you get new information at stage 3, and then you add a whole new potential component to the differential
diagnosis? But if you did your job correctly,
you're not going to miss that.
Yeah, if you missed it, that means you missed it at the beginning. That means you didn't make your differential broad enough, and prematurely narrowing the differential diagnosis is a problem you have to.
Okay.
All right. Don't tell me the patient presented with a seizure. The patient presented with a seizure-like event. If you say seizure, you're already narrowing your differential to causes of seizure.
All right, so say you've got some students who do well on their exam, like AI.
Good test takers.
They're good test takers, and then they go into a clinical environment. And
they're flailing.
How is their grade compared to the AI? Is it similar, 40, 50%?
They didn't make a comparison.
Well, isn't that important?
Of course it is. But the point is they did really substantially worse when put into a more of a realistic clinical scenario, and they especially did worse when they didn't have all the information.
I'd like to know what the answer is, though. They could still be
the answer is we need to do more research.
Yes, we
need to do a lot more research. But no, those figures were not good. But maybe they're like at medical student level. But that's not practicing medicine level, right? So I also discussed that in my how do you grade what level somebody's at? So I think AI is basically at the competency level, which sounds good, but it isn't. Competency is like the first rung of the ladder. That just means you know stuff, right? That just means you know the basic information you need to know.
So it's at the advisor level. It's like
no,
not even at that level where you can say, "What's your differential diagnosis at this stage?"
Well,
right?
They have lots of information, but they can't think clinically, right? So this is that kind of puts them at like the intern level, meaning that if you ask them a really uncomplicated, straightforward question, they know the answer, right? But as soon as you throw them any curveball, like there's missing information, their performance degrades rapidly. And so one of the things I wrote about was that as clinical cases get more difficult, it's very geometric, like how much knowledge and expertise you need to deal with them. And one way to think about it is you need only 5% of your knowledge to deal with 95% of cases. Right? And the other 95% of your knowledge is to handle those last 5% of cases.
Shit, yeah.
So there's the 95%ers. It's like there are people who get to the point, like, all right, you're at the point where you could deal with those 95% of cases. You have a basic level of competence, but you have a lot of work to do before you could start troubleshooting that last 5% or 1% or whatever. It keeps going.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
And then like mastery is like you're at the 0.1% level where like you are recognized international, whatever.
Yeah, you need
outside your institution kind of expert.
Yeah, you
usually in a very, very narrow area.
You need to be house to get that last.
Yeah, right. That's mastery, but that's where like sort of academics are trying to be, right? But expertise is like you can practice. That to me, that's like you can practice. You're an expert. You can deal with. Right. That complicated 5%. And
yeah,
maybe
you're not going to be killing people.
When you get to that 0.1%, you refer to a master who's a subspecialist. Right.
Yeah, not even specialist.
But the competency just means you're a good student, or maybe you can function at the intern level, right?
Okay.
So that's kind of where AI is, but they cannot function at the expert level, which is where you need to be to actually practice medicine, because they especially can't handle the so often. And this is the sort of intuitive side of medicine, where it's one thing to like know algorithmically, and analytically. All right, when you have these symptoms, you have this percentage chance of having these entities, and this test has this sensitivity and specificity. Like you're numeric, mathematically going through, and that's great. And AIs are great at that. That's why I think they will be great complementary tools to an actual clinician. But what gets you into that top 5%, being able to deal with those more challenging cases, like there's just the sense that you're missing something, right? Like this story is not holding together, or from experience, you recognize things like, all right, why is this guy presenting now? What happened? Like nothing you told me, you're telling me all your symptoms and everything, but nothing really explains why you walked into my emergency room today.
Yeah.
So you just have a sense that there's unanswered questions, there's things you
instinct
need,
or
and
gut
that's
feeling.
when you pull out that piece of information. It's like, oh, like the key to the whole case is hiding in information
Gives you an epiphany,
that you need to go after, that an AI is just completely passive and has no idea. And would just completely miss. You've dealt with AI. You know how the more you push them, the more incoherent they become. Yeah. And that's the same thing in medicine.
So I wonder if this is like a thing where it's like it's like typical, where the last 5%, you do 95% of the effort to get that last 5%. And
that's what it's going to be like. So we're kind of at the 95% level with AI as a medical, expert system, which is still useful. It's great for training. But
it's not going to be your emergency
but it might be
medical hologram
20
anytime
years
soon.
Before we get to the point where it's like you would actually trust it as a doctor. So so one of the conclusions of the study is like we still need people in the loop. Like do not think that these AIs are thinking like clinicians. They are great if there's a human in the loop. But the other thing is, though, and this is the AI slop problem. Mark Chrislop actually wrote about this a few weeks ago. And that is that if you're going through your training with AI expert systems, like how much of a temptation is there to over-rely upon them?
Oh, yeah.
Because again, you could fake competency really well, but you'll never learn to really think like a clinician if you're letting AI do all the work for you. So you basically, and this is, I think, a bigger issue with AI, is that it makes mediocrity really easy. And so, right? And so, so you get to this, anyone could just really easily get to a mediocre position, but is that going to really make it harder for anybody to break through to like the real expertise and mastery in anything? In writing poetry, we're all mediocre poets now. Great. But so right?
Yeah.
But
and songwriters.
But is anyone going to become an expert if everyone is just going to be all right, lazily going along with the mediocre thing? And mediocre doctors are terrible. You can't be a mediocre doctor. You can't be a mediocre fighter pilot. You've got to be fucking awesome at certain things to function.
Yeah, mediocre fighter pilot.
Yeah,
I like that
you
one.
can't be.
More than doctor,
there are some
actually.
professions where you cannot. Mediocre is not good enough.
Yeah.
And minimal competence is not good
Yeah,
enough.
like a mediocre president.
You need expertise. You need actually to be fucking good at what you do. And that's why it takes 10 years, of training to become a doctor.
All right.
Anyway.
Interesting, fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
I like that.
But how long does it take to have video game skills and be an expert in
video
that?
game skills?
How
This is a fun article.
All right, we'll do it real quick.
So I was writing about the Last Starfighter. Remember that movie, The Last Starfighter?
Yeah.
What was the basic premise of the movie?
It was a video game to join a galactic force, and if you're a
the
competent...
video game. Remember what they called the video game as a test? It was the Excalibur test.
Okay.
It was deliberately named after King Arthur.
Yeah, it's been about 30 years, so I forget some details.
Yeah, I know. I had to look it all
Or
up
is it
myself.
40 years?
Technically
Jesus.
42 years.
Ah!
It was 83?
84.
84? But then it also was training you, right? So the kid won the game, and so that's it. You have the most skill, and this is actually a simulation of an actual fighter. And then he defended the galaxy from invasion.
With his lame CG fighter, right? Remember
1984 CG fighter.
Oh my God.
But so I was going through two things really. One is how much digital media have been demonized culturally over our entire lifetime, basically.
Yeah.
With video games still being blamed for every mass shooting and yet
despite study after study, right?
Despite 60 years of research that fails to show any causal connection between video game violence and actual violence in the real world.
And it's actually helpful in some
well,
ways.
That's part two was they actually could also be helpful. So I likened it to I think we're going through another phase, and this is the study I was bouncing off of, was that now we're blaming social media for everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're doing this basically committing the same mistake that we did with the video game stuff. It's actually not, social media is not an inherently bad thing. And if you look at the evidence for the correlation between social media and anxiety and depression, it's just as bad as the evidence for a correlation between video game violence and violent behavior. And it's the same problem. It's correlational.
Yeah.
It's not showing cause and effect. Because it's, for example, you're saying, well, you're more likely to be anxious and depressed if you spend more than 3 hours a day on social media. But what comes first, though? Are anxious and depressed people going to social media looking for some kind of connection or for some distraction or for whatever? And so if your reaction is, well, let's take that away from them, you may be doing more harm than good. You're taking away their coping mechanism. You're not solving their anxiety or depression. You're taking away their coping mechanism. Unfairly blaming it for being the cause when there's no evidence. There's basically no evidence that it's actually the cause. So, all
right, interesting.
In the medical field, we have been moving towards the paradigm of don't take stuff away, just give people more stuff, right? So don't take screens away or limit screen time or take, you know what I mean? But give kids more stuff to do. Like go outside and play. Yeah. Don't say no screens. Yeah. Same thing is you could be on social media, but you want to have some other stuff that you do. You want to be more, well-rounded. And the thing is, people get there eventually. Is the other thing that we find out is that whatever their childhood was like, they still get there eventually. You know what I mean? It's not like video game players from the 80s are all losers today, right? They're all fucking CEOs and doctors, and us, right? I mean, it's not like but that doesn't mean that there isn't an extreme end where there are people who are abusing it, and they probably also have other problems as well. But I think that we should not be demonizing social media or screen time or digital interactions or video games. We've been doing it for 60 years. The evidence has never been able to show that it's actually a problem. And we should just say this is part of life. But it is a good idea to have a diversity of activities,
So I think at the year-end show, I brought up the whole Australia banning people under 16 years old. What do you guys think about that now?
It's an experiment, and it'll be interesting. I hope that they really try to have some good metrics. but it may not have any beneficial.
Yeah.
I know so far there's no evidence that it's beneficial.
Yeah, that was my kind of thing. It was like, what is the evidence? It seems
There's
like
a lot
it's,
of pissed off teenagers out there.
and
But-
it's
And then the other thing is, it's like, I think in certain settings, I could say like no phones in school.
Yeah.
Because it's a distraction. That
makes
fine. You got to
sense.
focus on your schoolwork. Again, that's more about carving out protected time for other activities.
Yeah.
Not saying
For critical
screens are
activities,
bad,
yeah.
but it's more like you need to focus on school when you're in school.
Right.
You need to have some time where you're outside getting physical and not, sitting in front of a computer screen. And again, not because screens are bad, but that physical activity is good.
It's good,
So
yeah.
just reframe it as you need to get physical activity. You need to have diverse socialization. You need to have diverse activities. You need to have diverse intellectual challenges. And it's okay, but not demonize screen time or demonize video games.
Yeah,
or
I mean, do you
whatever.
think it's mostly because like people are so busy that it's like laziness? They're just like, just go sit in front of the TV or whatever. and,
Yes.
it's like,
Yeah, I mean, sure. There's
It's
always going to be the
hard
lowest
to-
common denominator.
right.
We're always going to gravitate towards the laziest option. That's just human nature. And again, that's one of those evolved algorithms. It's energy saving.
Right.
Laziness is adaptive, right? Laziness is an adaptation for energy efficiency. That's why it's true.
Don't
That's,
give them a good science excuse to be lazy.
no, it is. If you look across the animal kingdom, the animals that are the laziest, right, that that are lounging and sleeping most of the day,
Cats
are the,
sleep
like
for
cats,
like 18 hours a
20
day.
hours
It's
a
nuts.
day, because they have a very high energy demanding lifestyle. If you need to burn all your calories in 2 hours while you're hunting or whatever, you need to fucking be lazy
Take
the
it
rest of
easy,
the day.
man.
That's energy conservation.
Yeah.
So it's not surprising that laziness is part of our makeup. It's like everything. It is a double-edged sword. It's a trade-off.
Yeah.
It's like you need anxiety to live, but you don't want to be overwhelmed with anxiousness.
balance,
It's
yeah.
fine to be efficient in how you do stuff, but the obsession with efficiency can blend into laziness and be counterproductive. And it is the golden rule of everything in moderation is sort of a good first approximation, almost in any
Right.
context.
Yeah, right.
I can't tell you how many. Like there was just a study. I think it was one of the TikToks you sent me where they were like the ramen noodle one.
Yeah.
The study shows that if you eat more than ramen
like
noodles
two-
more than twice a week,
Yeah, what's it-
more than twice a week.
I just saw that.
It's like you shouldn't be eating anything more than twice a week. You know what I mean? Like, fine. I said, well, once again, you could just say everything in moderation, and that
Yep.
completely. Like,
Yep.
you don't
Yeah.
demonize fucking ramen noodles. It's like don't eat bacon at 7 days a week either.
Well, you
Like,
can eat
nothing-
pasta.
It's like that Hager the Horrible comic where he tells his wife, I drink in moderation, and the bar's name is Moderation. So it's like,
Right.
And on that note, I got to go. I got to take care of mom.
Go,
and do
go, go,
stuff.
go.
Okay, all right.
All
Well,
right.
that's good. We got.
All right,
we're moving
people.
on
We
to
got
TikToks.
some
Say
ticky
bye,
talks.
It's been
bye.
fun.
Bye. Bye.
See you
Take-
later.
Bob.
Alrighty.
Alrighty, play your video games, drink your Ovaltine, everybody. All right, we're gonna move on to the
All right,
TikTok.
see
Stand
you
by
guys.
for hold me. All right, see you.
All right, Steve. Don't forget that email.
Yeah, we're
the move.
emailing. We're emailing. See ya. Bye.
these are far enough to
Bye.
set the
One
table.
day we'll have Willet bread again, but not right now. All right. Do you want to do the thing where you like start and
Yes.
then? Okay.
So this is the DNA
This is the
thing.
DNA guy. All right.
Let me think about what I'm going to say.
Let me think about what I'm gonna did.
And let me know when I'm ready.
All right, hold on. Let me full screen that. Stand by.
So we're living in an interesting world now where scientific studies find their way into social media and the public domain, and people who really don't know what they're talking about, don't have the expertise to sort of understand what the implications of the science are, feel free to pontificate about it online or on social media. And one of the common examples of that we deal with all the time is the notion of energy and frequencies and how that relates to biological function. And there's, of course, this whole subculture of people who think that, everything is just vibrations and frequencies, but they're not really using those terms scientifically. They're just more of in a vague sense. But watch this video. This is a kind of a perfect example of what I'm talking about, and then I'll put it into an actual scientific context. You'll see how different it is from this level of discussion.
Well, this wasn't on my bingo card, y'all. An Oxford scientist suggests that DNA may function like an antenna receiving signals from an external field. A week later, his lab suddenly closed for renovation. Is it a coincidence? I don't know. Let me know in the comments. Well, this wasn't.
So you got to throw in the conspiracy theory at the end, right? Oh my God, the lab is closed for maintenance. Coincidence? Yeah, labs closed for maintenance all the freaking time. Again, like there's always this notion that there's this Men in Black kind of mysterious organization who's like keeping an eye on any research happening around the world, and anything that steps a little bit out of bounds, they sort of shut it down some way. It's just conspiracy nonsense. But let's talk about this scientific study that he's talking to. So this, I think, because he doesn't give a specific reference, this refers to a study that was published in 2011. And it did show that DNA does have the physical properties that make it possible for it to respond to radio frequencies, basically non-ionizing electromagnetic frequency radiation, EMF, right? And because it has essentially a self-replicating structure, like a repeating kind of structure. So the question was, this is the question they were really interested in, is can DNA be damaged by non-ionizing radiation? The reason why that's an important question is because we know that ionizing radiation can damage DNA, right? So ionizing radiation is powerful enough, a high enough frequency, that it can break chemical bonds, which means it could break the bonds in DNA. But generally, non-ionizing radiation, which is too weak or too low in frequency to break chemical bonds, therefore should not be able to damage DNA. And so we don't have to worry about our cell phone use, right? Because cell phones use non-ionizing radiation. But this research was saying, well, but what if DNA, because of its structure, could act as kind of a receiver, the way a receiver or an antenna would react to non-ionizing, say, radio frequency or microwave frequency radiation? Could that build up the energy of those electromagnetic frequencies enough to then break chemical bonds and cause damage to DNA? And what they found is that maybe was the answer, that the DNA can act as what they call a fractal antenna, and it can resonate with radio frequency waves, basically like an antenna reacts with radio waves. Now that didn't mean that it does damage DNA or that there's any particular non-ionizing radiation that can cause DNA damage, but it means that they're saying this means that it's possible within the laws of physics for this to happen because of this effect, this fractal antenna effect. Now, of course, the internet, right? People on social media look at this and go, oh, our DNA is a receiver for information coming at us from the universe. No, it doesn't. That study did not show that. It does not necessarily mean that. It doesn't mean that our DNA can get information from the outside. It really only means that it's a possibility that it could be damaged by non-ionizing radiation. That's all it means. I couldn't really find much follow-up to this research. So the next studies you read are not really studies, they're just comments from people who are saying, maybe this is the universal intelligence, right? They just took it into, this is like the more recent, like 2025, 2026, took it into paranormal world. But the actual like hard science was just, hey, this could be a potential avenue of DNA damage. We should look more into this. And then they really didn't go anywhere. Which means I suspect it really wasn't much of an effect. Otherwise we probably would have seen more follow-up research. But maybe there's some unanswered questions in there. Interesting. But that's the real science. Our DNA, our antenna for universal information, whatever, is pure New Age pseudoscience bunk.
Alrighty, here we go. Let's see, DNA antenna. All right, let's move on to this next one, which is this guy.
So
there's two videos, right? So we have this.
Yeah, so I'll
video.
talk first,
Okay.
and then play the colonoscopy one, and then do the other one.
Okay. All right, here we go.
I'm ready? So, the medical profession spends a lot of time, an agonizing amount of time, examining, studying, researching, putting together panels of experts, discussing, debating about exactly what tests we should do when on what populations of people. It all comes down to risk versus benefit. And that risk versus benefit is related to the sensitivity and the specificity of these tests, which means if you do a test looking for a specific condition, what is the probability that it will pick up all positive disease states, right? What is the true positive probability versus the false positive? How many positives will be false positive? Also, how many actual cases will it miss? How many false negatives will there be, right? No test has 100% true positive and 100% true negative rate. Those virtually do not exist in medicine. So we're always dealing with tests that have, even when they're very good, 95 plus sensitivity and specificity, it still means there's going to be false positives and false negatives in there. And then we have to decide, well, what does that mean? So who do we screen? Who do we order this test on? And what do we do with the test results if they're positive? What do we do if they're negative? Oftentimes, if there's a positive test, that triggers a follow-up test, which has usually more sensitivity or more specificity, meaning that we do the first test to make sure we're picking up all the cases, and then we do the second test to make sure that they're not false positives. So it has a really high specificity. That's often that 1-2 punch that we do. But listen to this guy. This guy is not a doctor, clearly has no idea what he's talking about when it comes to clinical decision making or how medicine actually works. He is just a self-made guru who is selling his books, selling his own personal theory on, the cause of all disease, and has a lot of nonsense to say.
People get so defensive when I tell them that mammograms and colonoscopies may not be a good idea for them. Why do you think that is?
All right, so this is all subjective, right, interpretation. They get defensive. Do they get defensive, or do they say, you're full of crap, you don't know what you're talking about, and what you're saying is dangerous misinformation? Is that defensiveness? How do you interpret that? If what he was saying was nonsense and was dangerous misinformation, how would people respond? I think they would respond pretty much exactly as they are, which is, this is nonsense. So mammograms and colonoscopies are two screening tests, right? A screening test means that it's something you do either in the general population or you do in some population before they have a disease, right? You're doing it before they clinically have a disease, before they have a complaint. If you're responding to a symptom, it's no longer a screening test, it's a diagnostic test, right? But a screening test means you're going in a healthy population, which could be everybody or it could be a subset of the population, and you're doing a screening test to catch disease early. That's how mammograms work, that's how colonoscopies work. And again, there is tons of research on when we should start doing colonoscopies, how often we should do them, in what populations, when we should start doing mammograms, in what populations, how often. And there's debate, is internal debate, and there's not always 100% agreement because the cutoffs of risk versus benefit and your thresholds can be slightly different depending on how much you think about, like, what is the downside of a false positive versus a false negative, et cetera, et cetera. There's no completely objective place to draw the line, but we do the best we can based upon this really extensive evidence and extensive debate. And this guy just shooting from the hip is like, maybe we don't need to do mammograms, or maybe we don't need to do colonoscopies. And why do people get so upset when I suggest that we don't need to do these proven life-saving screening procedures? Because that's what they are. They are proven to be life-saving when used appropriately, which they are, with a great deal of evidence, thought, and debate that this guy apparently has no idea about. But then he takes it even further. Let's see his next video.
If you keep having scans done, MRIs, PET scans, mammals, colonoscopies, etc., they're going to find something. But if you read my books, then you know abnormalities are normal. Your body goes through these cycles and then they reverse them. But if they find it, they have to rush you off to treatment or they could catch a lawsuit. This is defensive medicine. And this is dangerous because you can end up getting treatment that you don't need.
All right. So for context, I'm a physician. I taught medicine at a university, at a medical school for 30 years. And that's why this kind of stuff is frustrating to me, because he's talking as if like, oh, these people have no idea what they're talking about, as if this is some kind of revelation that he's saying, that there could be a false positive to a test. So yeah, it is nominally true that if you keep ordering tests, almost by definition, statistically speaking, eventually you are going to have positive tests. Many tests take a 2 standard deviation approach, which means that by definition, 95% of people are within the normal range, and 5% of people are outside the normal range on either too high or too low, for example. So we know like 1 in 20 tests are going to be abnormal by chance. We freaking know that. This is like medical school, medical student, like basic level clinical thinking, right? That this guy thinks is this massive revelation or gotcha on the medical industry. Come on. So yes, of course. And when we decide what tests need to be done when, the false positive rate is baked into the calculation. And of course, the most important thing is that you don't overreact to a positive test, right? So, and there's a plan for exactly what to do if the test is positive. It doesn't mean we assume that it's a true positive, because we know there's a false positive rate. That's, again, baked in. So like, for example, with mammograms. Mammograms are meant to be a screening test. They're meant to have a very high sensitivity. If you have a positive mammogram, you then get an ultrasound. Why do you get an ultrasound? Well, the ultrasound's not as sensitive as the mammogram. It's not a good screening test, but it's a good follow-up test. It then tells us more information about what was seen on the mammogram. It may say, oh, this is likely to be a cyst. Don't worry about it. Or this has characteristics which are more concerning. Then you do the next step, which is a biopsy. So there's this tiered approach that is all carefully coordinated and calculated to make sure that we pick up as many people as possible and that we deal with false positives by doing more specific screening. You know, we don't just send people to mastectomy because they had a positive mammography. There's a whole procedure you go through. It's all evidence-based, thoughtful, and based upon clinical decision-making that leads to the best outcome. And it's constantly being debated and reviewed and researched, etc. You could say this is true of pretty much anything. Now, sure, does that mean that there's some clinicians who, color outside the lines or maybe not follow the rigorous, protocol, or maybe order tests when they're not necessary? Of course it all happens because we're people and people are imperfect, and the execution of all this is going to be imperfect. But at its core, the standard within medicine is all these tests go through the ringer of evidence and debate to sort out all of these issues. He's trying to say, therefore, just don't do them at all, which is ridiculous. And he's also then adding this completely nonsensical claim that abnormalities, like all abnormalities, any potential abnormality we might see, that abnormal things are normal. Now, we know that, right? We know that some apparent abnormalities may just be normal variants. Again, this is always an active point of discussion. Could that blip that I'm seeing on this x-ray be a normal variant? Could it be a benign entity? Could it be an artifact, meaning it's not even real? It's just an artifact of the study itself. This is something like if you read a radiology report, for example, like if you're a clinician and you read a radiologist, they will go through, could this be an artifact? Could this be an anomaly? Could this be a normal variant? Or is this necessarily pathological? And then they give their differential possibility or differential diagnosis of all the things it could be. And then we put that into context. And we might say, it's probably nothing. Let's rescan them in 6 months just to make sure it's not changing, right? That may be one way you respond. Or, wow, that's right in the place where the person's having symptoms. And I don't know, that looks kind of odd to me. We better do a more detailed scan or whatever. Or maybe you have to follow it up with a different kind of test that's complementary. Let's do a PET scan. Let's see how metabolically active it is. There's a whole procedure of possibilities that you do to try to sort through what's real and what's not real, what's pathological, what's a normal variant. This guy just saying, it's all normal, don't worry about it, is ridiculous. It's malpractice. What he is outlining, if a physician actually did that, it would be unequivocal, case closed, open your checkbook, malpractice. Don't listen to anything this guy has to say.
All righty.
Was I firm enough on that guy?
I think so.
Fucking loser.
Yeah, fucking guy. I don't know. I'm just going to put it as malpractice as the title. All right, everybody. That is
open your checkbook.
Open
malpractice.
Your checkbook. That's a funny one. What happened here? That's been our Wednesday live
That's
stream.
it.
That's it, folks. We will.
I hope it was a life-changing experience for you.
You definitely were changed. Something was changed. I think, what else do we got? So yeah, all those events coming up. Go to Skeptics Guide, theskepticsguide.org/events to see all the events that Jay is meticulously planning and making sure that we will be able to catch the flights of. And I don't know what else there is. Listen to the show that comes out. Become a patron at the patreon.com/Skeptics Guide.
And if you're not aware,
oh yes,
Political Reality Podcast is out. So go to politicalrealitypodcast.com or Patreon/Political Reality. And the second episode of our new season of Alpha Quadrant 6, AQ6, is out. The first one was a review of the science of Hail Mary.
Correct.
What was the second one you dropped?
Predator Badlands.
Predator Badlands. But we have another 6 or 7 in the can. We just recorded another one yesterday.
Every Monday we're going to be dropping those.
Yeah, so we'll be dropping a new AQ6 every Monday, a new PR every Wednesday, and of course we have the show every Saturday.
That's right. That's it, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We'll see
Thank you, everyone.
around.
Thank you,
Bye,
Ian.
Bye, of course. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.